Good day, poker peeps. Sky with Smart Poker Study. So let's end this year on an aggressive up note. You are going to take on the Preflop raise or fold only challenge. That means no calling pre-flop. I got some great tips for you, some reasons why you'd want to take on this challenge, and a few hand examples to go through. So let's get on with it. Gambate!
10.99.
Yes! I'm tough, Creasy.
Yeah? No such thing as tough. There's trained and then there's untrained. And now which are you?
Trained.
Trained. Okay, let's go again.
Before we get into the rules of the challenge, the goals behind it, the helpful tips and hand examples to guide you through the challenge, and the action step at the very end, I want to discuss what actually inspired this challenge. A student came to me in mid-November or so. He was on a downwards trajectory. He joined the Poker Forge. And then once he started improving his pre-flop strategies and his post-flop strategies, his results kind of leveled out, and now he's on an uptick, doing very good. But I wanted to dive into his pre-Poker Forge numbers of roughly 8,000 or so hands where he was on that major downswing. So as we can see, 8,186 hands. He was down $575 at 5NL, 10NL, and 30NL. His win rate was negative 38 big blinds per 100 hands. And these are his statistics. He was a 37-22 player, limping 8.4%, calling 2-bets 1 out of every 3 opportunities, calling 3-bets almost half of the time, raising limpers 23% good, so he was aggressive, raising first in 31%, and 3-betting 8.6%. So pretty loose and aggressive player. When I went through his first 8,000 hands right here and filtered for various plays, when he V-pipped, his win rate was negative 65 big blinds per 100 hands. That means, on average, every time he V-pipped or voluntarily entered the pot, he lost 0.65 big blinds. So that's where all of these losses came from. Just playing hands led him to loss. When he would make a pre-flop raise, negative 34, limping, negative 38 big blinds per 100 hands. Calling a 2-bet, he did it 1 out of every 3 opportunities. Every time he called, he lost 1.04 big blinds. Calling a 3-bet, almost half of the time, holy cow, he lost 9.24 big blinds on average every time he called. Even his aggressive plays were costing him money. But you can see how ugly this was, his losses when it came to calling. So I took a look at his total positional winnings and win rates, and I filtered for making any pre-flop call, limping, calling a 2-bet, calling a 3-bet, etc. These are the number of hands where he made the call, his dollars lost, a little bit of winnings, but mostly losing here, and his win rate when he made the calls. If he would have folded all of these hands, he would have saved a lot of losses right here. For example, 235 button calls, he lost, rounding up, $97. If he had folded every one of these hands, his losses from calling would be 0. His win rate would be 0. He would have saved himself $97, so instead of losing $122 on the button, he would have actually only lost $26. He lost in the cutoff. If he would have folded every cutoff, he would have actually made money, about $64. So altogether, if he had just folded versus all of these calls, he would have saved himself $374. His actual winnings would have been negative 201. And that's a powerful message. Calling is losing, especially if you haven't learned good post-flop strategies as the caller. And we want to think to ourselves, where do our calling losses go? When he called these 3-bets, minus 9.24 big blinds each time, who is making that money? Well, it's the raisers, obviously. So raising is winning. And where do our raising winnings come from? Obviously, the players that are calling you. So that's what inspired me to give my student this challenge, and I'm giving you the same challenge as well. We want to decrease our calling so that we're doing more raising as a proportion of all the plays that we make, so that we're doing more winning as well. So let's get back to the rules of the challenge here. Rule number 1 is no limping. That means you do not limp first in, nor do you over limp. What you can do instead is just fold or raise over limpers. And the key thing about raising over limpers, though, if somebody limps into the pot, like this one and this one right here, they've already shown some interest in the pot. If you do decide to raise over limpers, expect them to call because they want to see the flop. Your raise isn't necessarily going to get them to fold, so pick and choose your good raising over limper spots. Now, this is an example of what not to do and why we want to do the raise or fold only challenge. We end up calling or limping along, right? We get a fold, oh, and then a raise and a call and a call. Now that pot is so sweet, we have to call, right? But remember what our goal was initially when we limped? It was to see the flop for just one big blind. He threw a monkey wrench into our plans. And this is one of the dangers of just calling in the first place, or limping here. We call, and then we get into kind of a dangerous situation. We don't realize a humongous fish just raised full pot, and we decide to continue in the hand, and we end up losing our entire stack to a top pair hand. By not limping, you're avoiding these kinds of situations. Next up, rule number 2, and actually there's only 2 rules. It's no calling raises. So do not call somebody's raise first in. Don't open raise and then call a 3-bet. Don't cold call a 3-bet from the blinds. Instead, what you want to do when somebody raises before you, just fold or 3-bet. If you're the raiser and you face a 3-bet, fold. If you're the raiser and you face a 3-bet, maybe 4-bet as well. Remember, it's raise or fold challenge. If you 3-bet and face a 4-bet, you can 5-bet or you can fold. Absolutely up to you. Here's a king-jack offsuit example here. We see a raise. Now, at this point, remember, truly, raise or fold only challenge means that call button does not exist right here. You cannot click call, so you're relegated to just raising or folding. You got to ask yourselves, oh, what am I going to do? Is this a good spot to raise, like a 3-bet bluff, or should I just fold? By ignoring, or not ignoring, but by foregoing that call button, you avoid situations like this where you call, oh, there's a 3-bet and a fold. Hey, I got the best position. I got to call. You call, and then you just end up calling begets more calling quite often. And then maybe, oh, that looks like a bluff. I'm just going to shove with very little equity in this hand, even though this guy 3-bet and is barreling against me. Wow. Big loss, ace-5 suited. By just calling, he gave this player the opportunity to 3-bet bluff. When he could have been the 3-bet bluffer, he would have folded, and he folded versus this 3-bet. It would have worked out right there. There is always an exception to every rule. The exception here is that you can call all in because you can't re-raise. And here's an obvious spot right here. You get a raise, you 3-bet pocket kings, everyone else folds, and then he shoves on you. Well, yes, in this case, you can't re-raise. You don't want to fold. You got kings. It is okay to click call. Like I said, there's always an exception to every single rule. Let's talk about the goals of doing this challenge. What can you expect to learn or to get out of it? First off, you're going to break the habit of calling, and you're going to learn that you can fold. Too many of us think of calling pre-flop as a default. We have Jack-10 suited. We gotta call. We might hit a straight or a flush. We can't fold right now. We can't fold to a 3-bet. No. This challenge will teach you that you can fold. Next, you're going to teach yourself the value of raising versus calling it. And calling is just hopeful poker. When you call pre-flop, you hope to hit something good. When you call on the flop, you hope to hit the turn. Or maybe you hope to have the opportunity to bluff on the turn. That's always possible. But calling is hopeful poker. Aggression wins pots with bluffs, and it builds pots for value as well, like we saw with that pocket kings hand just a second ago. Also, pre-flop raising means that you are going to be the c-better more often than facing c-bet, and c-betting is winning. Next up, you're going to teach yourself to consider non-calling options. You're going to look at a hand and say, oh, I really want to play this hand, but I can't call. That calling button is off limits. Can I 3-bet right now, or should I fold? You're going to avoid difficult spots like you saw with some of those first hand examples we saw. Man, limping or calling a raise when 3-betting or just folding would have been better. That's going to avoid those tough spots. I imagine there's quite a few times when you found yourself on the flop, the turn, or the river, you ask yourself, oh my God, how did I get myself into this spot? My guess is more than half of the time, it's due to calling pre-flop. And the last goal of doing this challenge, you're going to immediately improve your results, especially for losing callers like we saw out of my student. Without calling, he would have saved $375 over the course of those 8,000 hands. If you have results like my students, you're going to find roughly those same results, or that same improvement in results. Now for some helpful tips and hand examples. First, just allow yourself to fold more often. Like I said before, calling is a bad habit for a lot of people, and it hurts to not call. It hurts to get out of a hand when you think you have a chance of winning, hitting something good, but it will help you out finding the fold more often. So let's go through this hand. We have a limp, a fold, and then we limp as well. A fold, a call, a call. One of the big reasons why you want to do this challenge is to break that habit of calling, because making that initial pre-flop call often leads to bad flop turn and even river calls. Full pot size bet, everyone folds, but hey, we got 2 overs backdoor flush draw. Let's stay in. Oh, the 3 hits. He's double barreling against us. I call again. The river comes another 3. Well, he bet 1 big blind. How can I fold? I gotta look him up right here. Boom. Calling pre-flop and then flop turn river led to you losing 12 big blinds right here. When you would have open raised and said he probably would have folded, this player folded. Yeah, you could have easily just taken that pot down pre-flop. Allow yourself to fold more when you don't want to raise, but if you are going to play, come in for that raise. Next helpful tip, tight is winning in the micro stakes. Here's an ace of clubs, 5 of clubs hand. Okay, I'm totally down with making this open raise. Nothing wrong with this. Loving this hand for this play. Oh, drat, we get a 3-bet. His first time 3-betting. We get a couple of folds. Oh, and then a cold caller. He probably really likes his hand. Players make these kinds of calls. If it's not a strong pocket pair like pocket 10s or jacks, it's an ace. And all of his aces beat us. He's probably only doing this with ace king and ace queen. So I love this fold. My student made a great fold right here. Tight is winning in the micro stakes. He only lost 3 big blinds in this hand. He would have flopped top pair. Lovely. But he would have been crushed on the flop, but also on that river right there versus the straight. Next helpful tip. A tight image means that your bluffs are more successful versus perceptive players. So take a look. We are running 6-6. It's only 19 hands, but a very tight image right now. We only have an ace-9 offsuit. Fold and a fold. A tight player comes in for the raise, and we just have an ace right now. It's a great opportunity to 3-bet because we are tight, tighter than him. He's also a tight aggressive player in a steal position. This 3-bet has a very good chance of winning for everything that's going on right now. And everybody folds ace-9 offsuit. We could have folded, but hey, we took the chance, utilizing our image, utilizing a bet size, utilizing an ace blocker, 3-bet, and we picked up 4.5 big blinds for it. Next helpful tip, they are not going to know what you're doing. Let's take a look at this hidden hand. Here's hero in the big blind. Fold, a raise, and a couple of folds. Hero decides, to 3-bet right here. Maybe this player suspects that you are playing a raise or fold only game. He can't know that, but maybe he suspects it. What is he going to make of this bet? It sure looks like a bluff, but he knows that you are an aggressive player. You could be doing this with pocket aces. It could be 6-5 suited. Who knows? He's not going to have an easy time just coming over the top with a 4-bet, even when you make a play this size. And if he suspects that you are playing raise or fold only. So he decides to call. Flop comes 10-6-6. You c-bet, almost full pot right here. What's he going to make of this? He does not know what you have. If he doesn't have a 6, he doesn't have a 10, doesn't have like the nut flush draw, he's out of there. And that's what happens. And I guarantee you right now, you do not know what he has, what hero has in this instance, right? But let's take a look at what he had. Hero had the pocket aces, tried to sucker this player in with a small 3-bet. And the interesting thing about this, if he was thinking that hero is on a raise or fold only game, that 7 big blind 3-bet definitely smells like weakness. He could have easily come back over the top. I love this kind of play when you are playing raise or fold only and you think your opponents suspect what you're doing. But here's a key thing as well. My student plays on PokerStars where he has a hand history on all of his opponents. He has a HUD telling him, okay, this particular villain 40 is a 35-27 player, raising first in 35%, calling 19%, 3-betting 17%, right? Well, this player, if he's using a HUD, has the same kind of information on you. He's not going to know if this week you're playing raise or fold only because these numbers are still there. He might be paying attention enough to notice that you are not making any calls at all. But most opponents aren't going to be that perceptive and they rely on their HUD to know what you're doing and what you're capable of. If you really think they caught on and they're socking it to you, you need to adjust by tightening up. If you only come with 3-bets, with strong hands, sure, it feels tight. You're giving up your 3-bet bluffing opportunities. But hey, when they adjust to you, it's your job to adjust right back at them. Next helpful tip, look ahead for 3-betters before you open raise. Jack-9 suit is not the best hand in the world, but it's a pretty decent open raising hand out of the cutoff. But let's take a look around. Before we open raise, Oh, 3-bet at 9%. I know it's a small size, but let's just look at the percentage right here. He's 3-bet in the past. Oh, this guy, 1 out of 11, 19-16, he's 3-bet as well. Whoa, 21-20, he's 3-bet as well, 2 out of 20 times. I have 3-betters in position against me. Probably better off just folding right now. Avoid open raising when there's a good chance you can expect a 3-bet that you're just going to have to fold to. Make lots of c-bets, especially if you're the kind of player who does not do that much raising and you do more calling, so you face c-bets more often than not right now. When you cut out the calls, you won't be facing any c-bets. You are going to be the c-better. So you need to train yourself right now, starting this week, with more c-bets. We ISO raise only 3 big blinds. I prefer it a little bit bigger, but I don't fault my student for this right here. Couple of folds and a call and another call. Okay, king, 7, king, check, check. 1/3 pot, boom, takes it down. As a pre-flop aggressor, they have to contend with the fact that you have pocket aces, pocket kings, ace, king, king, queen in your range. On a super dry board like this, and tons of other boards, if they have nothing whatsoever, even if they haven't folded to c-bets in the past, you make that c-bet, especially when you're in the best position right here, they're often going to fold to you. Next helpful tip, turn calls. I say calls in quotes right there because I'm thinking about prior calls, calls that you would have auto-called in the past. Turn those into 3-bets if they can find a fold. So you want to think, are they on a stealing range? What is their position? What is the bet size? What does that tell me about the hand that they have? And what are their tendencies when facing 3-bets and maybe when open raising as well? Ace-X blockers are great. And I highly recommend, if you are going to 3-bet bluff, make it 9 big blinds or more, because the goal is to get them to fold. You saw in that prior hand with pocket aces, when we just made it 7.5, it was super easy for his opponent to call. So let's take a look at this ace-5 suited hand. We 3-bet to 9 big blinds. Suited, connected. Ace is a great hand for this. He's a 23-18 player. Even though he is in the MP, sometimes tight aggressive players, you just want to sock it to him with 3-bets. And, oh, he called drag. But hey, look at that. Ace high flop. We have a top pair. Weak kicker. He checks. Let's make a c-bet. We might get called out of a gut shot. A queen might not believe us and decide to call. And they fold. And this hand actually demonstrates all 3 of these all 3 of these tips right here. We believe he can find a fold, so we make the 3-bet. We make a lot of c-bets even when we hit, right? You're not just c-bet bluffing, you're also c-betting for value. And look ahead for 3-betters before open raising. Well, at this point, not that we are going to call, right? But if we had called, we got a 3-better and a 3-better over here. Couple of loose aggressive players. Our call means absolute weakness. Look at Hero's stats. He's a 17-12 player. If he had called right now, that shows absolute weakness, gives these 2 lags a perfect chance to 3-bet squeeze. By making a 3-bet of our own, we preempt their 3-bet. They got out of there. Now we just have that open raiser to contend with. And even if they call, like he did, it's not the end of the world. You might flop something, you might c-bet and get them to fold as well. Another tip, use those calling chips for raising. So let's take a look at this hand. A couple of folds, min, open, and a fold. A lot of players would just auto call this right now. But because you're doing the razor fold only challenge, you are going to click fold on this hand. You just saved yourself 1 big blind. In the very next hand, we were on the big blind. In the small blind, the next hand, well, a raise. Maybe this is the kind of time you would call. I don't know whether you would or not, but if you would, you're saving 2 big blinds by folding. You've just now saved 3 big blinds in the prior 2 hands. The very next hand on the button, it's folded to you. Maybe this is a time when you would normally just limp in instead of raising. Maybe you would just fold and not even play an offsuit 8. Well, you just saved 3 big blinds in the prior 2 hands. Why not put those to use? Let's open raise with it. Boom! They fold, and you won back those blinds that you folded away. So you can think on those saved calling chips, you can imagine that they're discounts on future aggressive plays. And the last tip for you, play on full tables, whether you're 6-max or full ring. Now it's time for you to take action. Action number 1, please like the video if you like the video, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel for more. And action number 2, just do it. Do this for 1 week or more, the raise or fold only pre-flop challenge. I'm going to do it, like I said, for the rest of the month of December, but I guarantee you're going to get so much out of it, and you're going to potentially enjoy poker so much more when you can't call, when you have to be aggressive. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.